Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online. Today we are diving straight into an archaeological anomaly that has just rewritten the history books. Let's take you to a specific moment in time. It is a frigid Wednesday morning, January 14th, 2026. We are in the Shanxi province of China, standing beneath the recycled air of the excavation shelter that covers pit number 2 of the Qin Shi Huang mausoleum. The air here is usually filled with the murmurs of tourists and the scraping of trowels, but on this morning the atmosphere is heavy, with a distinct electrified silence. For over 5 decades, ever since peasant farmers in Lintong first struck the clay head of a warrior back in 1974, the Terracotta Army has communicated a singular message to the modern world, and that message is one of motion. When you look at the infantry, they are marching. The archers are kneeling in preparation to loose their arrows. The cavalry stands ready to mount. It is an army frozen in the nanosecond before the charge. But the discovery announced by the Emperor Qin Shi Huang's Mausoleum Site Museum on this cold January morning changes that conversation entirely. In the newly excavated eastern section of Passage 9, deep within the complex military formation of Pit 2, archaeologists have unearthed 2 wooden chariots that defy the logic of the entire necropolis. These are large, intricate vehicles. They are laden with the telltale bronze fittings of high status. They are hitched to terracotta horses that strain against their harnesses, looking for all the world like they are ready to gallop. Yet, they are fundamentally different from the 140 other chariots found in the pits to date. They have no wheels. Now pause and consider the implications of that. These are not vehicles that have lost their wheels to the decay of 2 millennia. Nor are they the victims of ancient looting, where grave robbers stole the valuable bronze hubs. The soil strata tell a forensic truth that is impossible to ignore. These chariots were deliberately, methodically, buried without their primary means of movement. They were placed on the earth, not as vehicles of transport, but as monuments of stasis. They are being called the Static Chariots of Qin, an anomaly that has sent ripples through the sinological community and challenged our understanding of the first emperor's vision of the afterlife. To understand why this is so shocking, we first need to appreciate the engineering marvel that was the standard Qin chariot. The war chariot of the Qin dynasty was a triumph of standardization and lethal efficiency. Typically drawn by 4 horses, it featured a single draft pole, a rectangular carriage box about 1.5 meters wide, and 2 massive wooden wheels. Each of these wheels boasted 30 spokes, a specific number chosen to symbolize the days of the lunar month. When archaeologists excavate these wooden behemoths, the wood itself has long since disintegrated. What remains is what researchers call a soil ghost. This is a perfect negative impression left in the packed earth, preserved by the fine-grained loess soil of Shanxi. By pouring plaster or specialized binding agents into these hollows, researchers can recover the exact dimensions of the spokes, the felloes or rims, and the hubs. In the case of the newly discovered Static Chariots, the soil ghost told a radically different story. Project leader Qin Shi Huang and his team found the clear impressions of the draft poles. They found the rectangular carriage boxes, preserved with enough fidelity to show the texture of the wood grain and the lacquer that once coated them. They found the bronze way or linchpins and the yi or handrails, gleaming green with 2,000 years of oxidation. But where the great wheels should have been, flanking the carriage box and supporting the axle, there was only undisturbed compacted earth. The axles themselves were present, protruding from the carriage body, but they ended abruptly. There were no hubs, there were no spokes, there were no rims. Furthermore, the carriage boxes were not tilted or slumped, as they would be if the wheels had been removed haphazardly or stolen. They sat perfectly level, supported by wooden blocking that had also left its faint trace in the soil. This indicates a careful, engineered placement. These vehicles were docked in the afterlife, raised on plinths, or resting on their chassis, intended to remain exactly where they were placed for eternity. The layout of the artifacts around these chariots provides further clues to their significance. Unlike the war chariots in Pit 1, which are often surrounded by scattered weaponry suggesting the chaos of battle readiness, the Static Chariots of Pit 2 are surrounded by ceremonial artifacts. The bronze components found include over 15 pieces of intricate horse and chariot gear, and they are of a higher grade than those found on common infantry chariots. Some fittings are inlaid with gold and silver, a technique usually reserved for the emperor's personal vehicles or those of the highest-ranking generals. The horses, too, show subtle differences. Their terracotta bodies are slightly more robust, their grooming more meticulous, suggesting the stable of the imperial household rather than the cavalry of the line. Now, let us move to the geography of the find, because location is everything in archaeology. To decode the function of the Static Chariots, we must look at where they were sitting. Pit 2 is widely considered the special forces unit of the Terracotta Army, while Pit 1 is the massive infantry square, effectively the sledgehammer of the Qin army. Pit 2 is the scalpel. Shaped like a carpenter's square or an L, Pit 2 covers 6,000 square meters and contains a complex, mixed arms formation. It is divided into 4 distinct units. First, there is the archer array, a projecting square of kneeling and standing crossbowmen, the vanguard designed to rain death from a distance. Second is the cavalry array, a mobile force of horses and riders acting as the rapid response team. Third is the chariot phalanx, a dense block of 64 chariots representing the heavy armor of the ancient world. And finally, the mixed unit, a sophisticated combination of infantry, chariots, and cavalry. The static chariots were found in Passage 9, located in the mixed unit section near the joint of the L shape. In ancient Chinese military strategy, the joint of a formation is its most critical point. It is the hinge upon which the army swings. It is the command and control node. This specific location strongly supports the theory that these wheelless vehicles served as command chariots, known as jihuiche. In the chaos of a battlefield, the commander needed a stable platform from which to observe the field, issue orders via flags and drums, and remain visible to his troops. However, command chariots in the real world still needed wheels to advance or retreat. The fact that these specific command vehicles were buried without wheels suggests a shift from field command to eternal command. In the context of the tomb, the battle has already been won, or perhaps the nature of the defense is static. The commander in Pit 2 does not need to maneuver. He needs to hold the line forever. The removal of the wheels signifies an absolute refusal to retreat. It is a physical manifestation of the order to stand your ground. But there is another layer to this mystery, one that moves from military strategy to theology. The wheel is not just a mechanical invention in Chinese culture. It is a cosmological symbol. The round canopy of the chariot represents heaven, while the square carriage box represents earth. The chariot is a microcosm of the universe, moving through space and time. The burial of wheelless vehicles is rare, but not entirely unprecedented in the broader context of ancient Chinese mortuary rites. In the Shang and Zhou dynasties that preceded the Qin, killing grave goods was a common practice. Bronze vessels were sometimes smashed, and weapons bent, before being placed in the tomb. This ritual destruction, called Po, was believed to release the spirit of the object, allowing it to function in the shadow world, or Yinjian. Perhaps the removal of the wheels was a form of ritual killing for the chariot. A chariot that cannot roll in the mortal world is perhaps free to fly in the spiritual one. This leads us to the cloud chariot theory. Some sinologists speculate that the static chariots align with the Taoist and mythological concepts of the cloud chariot, or yunqie. In the mythology of the Warring States period, immortals and deities traveled in vehicles that did not require roads. They rode on clouds, wind, or dragons. We know that Qin Shi Huang was obsessed with immortality. He sent Shu Fu to the eastern seas to find the elixir of life and consumed mercury in hopes of transmuting his flesh. It is plausible that these wheelless chariots were intended not for the terrestrial roads of the Qin Empire, but for the celestial highways of the heavens. By removing the terrestrial wheels, the vehicle was symbolically converted into a palanquin, or a celestial barge, ready to be lifted by the spirits, rather than pulled by horses across the dirt. However, we must also consider the psychology of the man who ordered this construction. The discovery of the static chariots offers a terrifying glimpse into the mind of Qin Shi Huang. This was a man who standardized the width of chariot axles across his empire to ensure that all vehicles could travel in the same ruts. He was a ruler obsessed with mobility, inspection, and the unification of space. Why then would he bury immobile vehicles? The answer may lie in paranoia. The emperor survived multiple assassination attempts, including a famous incident where a musician swung a lead-weighted lute at him, and another where his carriage was ambushed by a strongman hurling a massive iron hammer. This trauma bred a deep paranoia. In his later years, he moved through his palaces via secret underground tunnels to avoid detection. The static chariots in Pit 2 might represent the ultimate defensive countermeasure. A wheeled chariot can be hijacked. It can be driven away. A wheelless chariot is a bunker. It is a fortress. By burying his spectral commanders in immovable vehicles, Qin Shi Huang was ensuring that his underground guard could never abandon their posts, nor could his own escape vehicles be used against him by mutinous spirit soldiers. The absence of wheels also speaks to the permanence of death. Wheels imply transit. They imply a journey with a beginning and an end. The Qin mausoleum was not a way station. It was the final destination. The emperor built a replica of the universe underground, complete with mercury rivers and constellation ceilings. In such a perfect, self-contained world, travel becomes unnecessary. The static chariots are symbols of arrival. The conquest is over. The emperor is home. Before we wrap up, it is worth noting the technical marvel of conservation that allowed this discovery to happen. The excavation of the static chariots in 2026 represents a triumph of modern archaeological technology. In the 1970s and 80s, excavators often struggled with the fragile soil ghosts of wood. Today, the team at the Emperor Qin Shi Huang's Mausoleum Site Museum employs multispectral imaging and 3D laser scanning before a single grain of dirt is moved. For the Static Chariots, this technology allowed the team to detect the absence of the wheels before they fully exposed the chassis. This prevented the accidental destruction of the wooden blocking that supported the carriage boxes. The conservationists are now facing a unique challenge: how to display in negative space. Plans are underway to create holographic projections that overlay the excavated pits, showing the chariots as they would have looked, floating just above the ground on their supports, the phantom wheels highlighted to emphasize their deliberate absence. The discovery of the Static Chariots in Pit 2 is a humbling reminder that after 50 years, the Terracotta Army still has secrets to tell. We have long looked at the faces of the warriors, admiring their individuality. Now we must look at their machines and the empty spaces where function used to be. These wheelless vehicles challenge the simplistic view of the Terracotta Army as a mere replica of a living army. They reveal it to be something far more complex: a ritual machine, designed with a logic that blends military strategy with theological necessity. The Static Chariots stand as silent sentinels to a paradox. The emperor who built the roads to unify China chose to face eternity in a vehicle that could never move. In the silence of Pit 2, they offer a final, motionless salute to a ruler who believed that his power was so absolute, it no longer needed wheels to turn the world. Thanks for listening to G Fun Facts Online.